This is the Hoover Dam, the scariest dam in the world. How the Hoover Dam was actually built. 80 years ago, the United States spent $160 million to build a gigantic and bizarre dam. The height of this dam was a staggering 200 meters. Even today, the Hoover Dam generates 4 billion kilowatt-hours of electricity every year. In the early days of the Hoover Dam, engineers wanted to build a Hoover Dam directly on the river. But because of the force of the river, it would have been too easy to build a dam that would have been washed away by the river, and the money would have been lost. So the engineers decided to divert the floodwaters on both sides of the dam and then build the dam downstream. The engineers used a large number of powerful bombs to blast the rocks along the riverbank. Then the workers loaded up a billion-dollar forklift to take away all the rubble. Then the engineers put steel bars in the tunnel to support it. Then through repeated blasting and tunnel digging. Eventually, the tunnels on both sides of the river were completely pierced. The brutal water flows downstream from the main channel through the tunnels. It's worth noting that to make the dam safer, the engineers built 2 additional smaller tunnels to divert the flow. At this point, the main body of the Hoover Dam was finally ready to be constructed. But the engineers had a second problem. If the dam was built directly on the dry riverbed, the Hoover Dam would still not be strong enough. If a very aggressive flood suddenly rises in level, the dam would still be vulnerable to flooding, which would cause massive damage. And then the engineer had an idea. He decided to cut a huge trough in the canyon on either side of the dam and embed the entire dam in it, thus making the Hoover Dam solid. And to make the Hoover Dam even stronger, the engineers also raised the height of the Hoover Dam by 100 meters from the original plans. And to make the foundation of the Hoover Dam stronger, engineers began digging down into the river until they reached a hard layer. After clearing away the debris, the engineers finally began the construction of the dam. There was another problem. If the dam were to be built with the same concrete that was being poured at the time, there was a risk of unobservable dark cracks in the wall due to the high temperature of the concrete during the pour. So the engineer decided to use a modular approach. He first stacked the body of the dam in small formatted steel blocks and then poured them in sequence. These steel grids gradually formed the main body of the dam. The engineers also left a visible gap in the center of the dam to prevent thermal expansion and cracking of the poured concrete, and to prevent heat migration during the pouring process into the body of the dam. These cooling tubes made the Hoover Dam less dangerous to build, and engineers cleverly thickened and widened the underside of the dam, and built the dam in a trapezoidal shape because it lowered the dam's center of gravity and made it stronger. The engineers then proceeded to build a hydroelectric power plant below. It's worth noting that this power station is the size of 2 soccer fields, and there are 17 large hydroelectric generators installed directly inside. When the river water passes through the tower above, it instantly rushes into the vortex machines in the pipes. These vortex machines will transport the water to the generators at the end of the tunnel below to generate electricity. In addition, the engineers have carefully diverted the flow of water to prevent it from becoming too strong. And to avoid accidents, the engineers also built special spillways on both sides of the dam, so that when a sudden surge of floodwater occurs, the overflow of water will flow into the downstream from the spillways on both sides of the lake dam to avoid overloading the dam and causing it to burst. In addition, during the operation of the lake dam, the engineers avoided the uplift of the Hoover Dam due to the infiltration of water through the soil underneath. The engineers also cut a tunnel through the Hoover Dam. This not only stabilized the dam, but also allowed for timely maintenance. That's why the Hoover Dam has been called the scariest dam in the world.